next presenter is Chris Sherman, and Chris apparently is ready to make all of our mental faculties work. So Chris Sherman is going to talk about the flipped classroom. So give it up for Chris.
One of the things I was thinking that it would require all your mental faculties, but after listening to Stan, maybe only half of them. So you can get a little bit of a break from this. But one of the things I want to talk about, first of all, are buzzwords, especially educational buzzwords. And you've all heard them. In fact, Stan used one of them, the word paradigm. I remember a few years ago that everywhere you went, you heard the word paradigm. But there have been others similar. For example, data mining. That's a buzzword that we've heard probably way too much of. Blended learning is one that I used a few years back that's now being transformed into a new one, which I want to talk about this morning. And then bullying would be another. But one that is rapidly becoming more and more used in educational circles is the idea of the flipped classroom. And I don't know if any of you have heard of that terminology yet, but there's an ISTE conference, which is an international technology conference going on this summer in San Antonio. And in that conference, there are 30 sessions or demonstrations devoted to the flipped classroom. So even though we in El Paso may have missed this, this is rapidly spreading across the entire world, for that matter. And I want to spend a few minutes talking about the flipped classroom. In fact, my big idea this morning is that flipping your classroom can improve student achievement. Now, that statement begs the question, well, what do I mean by the flipped classroom? What exactly is it? And how in the world is it going to help improve student achievement? And so what I want to do to explain that is I want to first give my idea of what a what a traditional classroom is like, so that we can compare and contrast that. When I talk about a traditional classroom, I'm simply saying that sometime during a typical class period, there is a segment of time that is devoted to the delivery and instructional content, where the students sit and listen, and the teacher talks to the student, explaining a particular concept. Now, we usually call this a lecture, and this lecture could include some questions and answers, and it might even include a discussion question. But following that lecture, usually there is an assignment that is given to the students, where they begin that assignment in class and then complete the work at home for homework. Now, this would be an ideal situation in a perfect world, but what happens on day 2 when students come back to the classroom? Have all the students grasped that concept? Are they ready to move on to the next topic? Well, what about Johnny, who had an orthodontics appointment, or those students who just decide to blow off the assignment? What about them? What about those who tried as hard as they possibly could, but they just didn't get it? Well, normally what takes place is that we have to go over the same information to help our students master the concept. Now, this can take a few minutes, but oftentimes it can drag on much longer than that, and we find out that we're spending way too much on this, and time is passing, and all the while there are several problems with this. One of the problems is that not all of our students need this repetition of information. They got it the first time, they're ready to go on, and they're getting bored while you're repeating that same information. And yet there are other students on the other end of the spectrum who are going to need much more time than just the time that you have to devote to that class, no matter how much time you spend speaking in front of a group. So the end result, which hurts all of our students, is we begin to fall behind in the curriculum, and by the end of the first semester we may be 1, 2, or even 3 weeks behind in the curriculum. And according to our math coaches, which I've been talking to quite a bit this last semester, this happens quite often. So how can the flipped classroom help us, and what is exactly is the flipped classroom? Well, in many ways, it's just what it sounds like. What we do in the classroom, we now devote much of that time to homework, and what we spend homework time doing, we now do in the classroom. And in a flipped classroom, students view the delivery of instructional content at home in the form of online videos, web pages, teacher notes, and it might also include a brief formative assessment where we check for understanding to find out what the students got during that homework time. Now, what happens on day one, not day two, but day one of classroom instruction? First of all, teachers are going to know two things before a student ever walks into that classroom. They're going to know, number one, which students completed the homework, and number two, they're going to know which students were successful in the homework. So that by the time they walk into the classroom, the teacher can begin a brief overview of what was covered during the homework, answer any questions that the students might have, and then the teacher is ready to then begin to differentiate instruction. Those students who didn't get it for whatever reason, they're going to be in one group over here, and this teacher is going to be able to spend more one-on-one time with those students. On the other hand, those students who did get it, they're going to be able to spend more time on engaging activities such as discussion groups, media production. They can create videos and podcasts. They can work on projects. They can solve problems. They can conduct experiments and do research or writing projects or whatever it is. Now the question is, does this flipping the classroom actually work? And I've got a brief testimonial by a few teachers here.
These are really exciting times that we're in right now, and we're finally at that place now when we can have our pedagogy match our technology.
What excites me about flipped learning is that I can do many things with different students all at the same time.
You know, flipped classroom, one of the main things that I'm excited about is the fact that you really get to speak the students' language.
It's just about creating a space for teachers to bring back in problem-based learning or challenge-based learning.
The flipped model just is exciting because when you walk into a flipped classroom, students and teachers are engaged with content in a completely different way than they are in a direct instruction model. Students have had time to take in the content, grapple with it, look at it at their own pace.
A lot of the students weren't really understanding what was going on in the class, and if they hadn't picked up the concepts in class, they would not be able to do their homework at home, and no one was there to help them. Their parents didn't know how to help them, and there was no one really to help them out there. So now it's an entire different story.
It also provides, different learners with different access. So you got people who are excelling in your class can dive even deeper into the material. The students who are struggling can really get your attention because you actually, as other people are working on, different parts of the curriculum, you can give them the time and energy that they need to kind of even excel even more. So there's just a wide range of possibilities.
The idea that really stood out to me the most was that students would be able to access what I was saying, what I was sharing with them, and they could pause me and they could rewind me, and they wouldn't have to say, what did you say? They wouldn't have to have someone take notes for them, that they could really access the instructional piece at their own pace.
So I love that there's differentiation I can do 4 different things at the same time and do it all differentiated. So for me, that's the best part, and that makes me most excited as a teacher.
One of my favorite stories was from one of my students, and they were talking about the video lessons and how they've been watching the video lessons for math at home. And this particular student told me that he and his mom actually watched the videos together because his mom is going back to community college and has to pass the entrance math exam. So she's been using my video lessons to work not only with her son on his homework and take a part in his education, but to help improve her education as well.
It's a lot more fun to be a teacher in a flipped classroom because you're spending the class time on the things that are enjoyable, the time spent with students. That's where the joy is.
There's a growing body of data that suggests that flipping the classroom works. You can see these statistics up here. There was a survey of 453 teachers who had actually engaged in flipping the classroom. 66% of them said that student scores on standardized tests improved. 80% of student attitudes improved. Now, what does that mean when a student's attitude improves? Fewer discipline problems, more engagement in what's going on. And of course, if they're more engaged, they're going to be more successful. 88% of teachers said they were more satisfied with the job they were doing in the classroom, and 99% said they would keep on using the flip model for instruction. All those are good testimonials. But how will it work for you? First of all, what I do want to, one caveat that I want to put in here right now is to say, not all of you will want to do a flipped classroom. Not all of you would enjoy that. This isn't for everybody, but there are some of you who will enjoy working with this kind of a project, and I would challenge you to do it because it works. It does take a lot of work. Now, one of the things that I want to do is I want to take a moment to look at what would a flipped classroom actually look like? What type of resources would we need? What kind of hardware and software? What can we afford this thing? Now, I'm going to take an imaginary project, which is a real project for our 6th grade math teachers. And what I did was I looked at a 6th grade math lesson on ratios. And I decided, well, I'm going to try to put together what a flipped classroom would look like if I was a 6th grade math teachers. What would that exactly look like? Now, the first thing that a teacher is going to need is some kind of learning platform to put this thing, because students have to go online to see this stuff and to interact with it. And I've put up 5 resources here. Some of you are familiar with them. All of you have heard about Project Share. In fact, Tim's going to do some sessions this week on Project Share. How many of you have heard or used Weebly? Okay, quite a few of you. All right, that's a that can be used. It's a website creator, and it can be used as a tool to flip your classroom. Another one is called Edmodo. How many of you have heard of Edmodo? Okay, again, most of you have heard it. That's an ideal platform to flip a classroom. There's another one, and this is the one I'm going to show you. In fact, I'm going to do a session on it this week. It's called Schoology. How many have heard of Schoology? Oh, I got a couple. Great. Did you just read the term in the brochure or what? No, you actually heard it. Great. So I'm going to show you what this might look like if a teacher created this and put it on the website. First of all, I want you to notice there are 4 features that I want you to see. This is a Schoology website, and I have a set of instructions here telling students what they're going to have to do when it's going to be complete. And the first step is to watch the ratio and rates tutorial. Be sure to take notes, write down the differences between ratios and rates. You may want to have other instructions on there as well. Then I want them to visit a website called Thinking Blocks. And thirdly, they're to take a check for understanding on ratios. All right? Now, as we scroll down here, there's going to be the tutorial on ratio and rates. And let's take a look at what this...
Hi everyone, in this lecture we're going to talk about ratios and rates. So our first vocabulary word is ratio. A ratio uses division to compare 2 quantities or 2 numbers. And you can write ratios 3 ways. The first way is with the word 2 in the middle, A to B, and A and B are both numbers. You can write it as a fraction, A over B, or you can write it with a colon in the middle, A to B. The only little caveat to try to remember is B should not equal 0, can't equal 0, because if you remember back, we can't divide by 0, that's not a real number. So these should be actual numbers, not 0, but just keep in mind 3 different ways to write a ratio. Let's do an example. I have the Hunger Games fresh in my mind, so let's take the example of an archer. An archer shoots 60 arrows at a target, and 44 hit the target, 16 miss. I want to write the ratio of hits to total shots. So let's see. I've got 44 hits, and my total number of shots are 60. Now this is a ratio written in fraction form. When it's written in fraction form, we want to treat it like it's a fraction. We want to simplify it like we would a fraction. So let's see. I could divide 44 and 60 by 4. So 44 divided by 4 is 11. 60 divided by 4 is 15. And here's my ratio of hits to total shots.
These videos can be, a lot of times you can find these videos online. This one I found on YouTube, and I just embedded it, or I set a link to that particular video. And a lot of times you can find videos that are helpful, but in most cases you're probably going to have to create your own videos, and we can show you how to do that. But in fact, the TV studio here can help us to some degree on here. But here's my assignment, to view the video, and again, I have some specific instructions for this assignment. The second assignment, which is a link also to a web page, goes to this particular Thinking Blocks website. Now, this is an interactive website, and you're not going to find this every time, and you don't have to have a website. In fact, in most cases, you probably won't even find it. But I found one that was really cool, and in this case, it says, it's a word problem. I don't know if you can read it, but the ratio of the number of Skylar's postcards to the number of Griffin's postcards is 2 to 7. If Griffin has 21 postcards, how many postcards does Skylar have? Now, in this, what I want you to notice is the student has to set up the ratio. And so he's going to put Skylar's postcards over here, Griffin's here, and it's in a ratio of 2 to 7. So Skylar has 2, and Griffin has 7. Now, I'm going to go ahead and get a wrong answer here, but when I check on it, notice it tells me down here, I get feedback. You need a total of 9 blocks to model this problem. So it gives you some hints along the way. And there are 3 steps to this. After I get this step correct, there'll be step 2, and then the third step will be the solving of the problem, which in this case, the answer is 6. Griffin's going to have 6, or Skylar's going to have 6, and Griffin's going to have 21. But what you'll see also down here, it has a tracking mode. And as students get these problems correct, they will go on to the next. And the idea is that they get 5 correct answers. So you get an idea here of what you can do with this learning process. Now the third step is going to be a brief quiz. And I'm not going to show you what the quiz is, but in this case, I made a quiz that was 5 questions long. The 5th question was actually a question, do you have any questions about the assignment or any comments that we can discuss in class? So by the time they come into class, I'm going to know whether or not they've viewed the video. I'm going to know if they've done the Thinking Blocks exercise, and I'm going to know actually their grades on that particular assignment. So I'm ready to differentiate as soon as they walk into the classroom. Now, first of all, it extends the classroom beyond the school hours. And this is the complaint that I hear from teachers all the time is we just can't keep up with the curriculum. We got to keep on going. I don't have time to integrate technology into the curriculum. And every time they say that, I cringe because I keep wondering, how in the world do you have time not to integrate technology into the curriculum? Because this provides you time. You no longer have to keep repeating the same material. Differentiation becomes easier. In fact, flipping the classroom is a practical approach to differentiating instruction, because now you know who needs the differentiation and what they need specifically. Third, students can work at their own pace. You might have heard one of the teachers say, they can rewind me, they can pause me, they can play it over and over again until they get it. Those are some of the benefits of flipping the classroom. Increases student motivation and attention time. Students enjoy working with technology. They will become more engaged, and I say that there is a qualifier on that. Number one is teachers have to work hard to make this work. But once it does, students will be more motivated. It gives students and teachers more time for interaction because you can spend more one-on-one time with the student. And finally, it can promote digital literacy skills and improve student academic achievement. All these ideas put together is what leads to that improved student academic achievement. I was going to say some words to administrators. I only have, are there any administrators in here? We got one back there. I do want to say real quickly here, you need to involve your instructional technology specialists. All these guys over here, they are specialists, they're professionals. They can help your teachers understand how to work with the platform that they'll be using, whether it's Edmodo, Weebly, Schoology, whatever it might be. They know how to help you to create these videos. And then finally, I'm going to leave you with this one last word. The flipped classroom model is not about technology. It is about a change in teaching and instruction that can be supported by technology so that the teacher is free to do what he or she loves to do, and that's interacting with students and helping them to succeed. If you have any questions, I'll be here this afternoon. If you want to learn more about flipping the classroom, I'll be glad to answer those questions. Tomorrow I'll be doing a session about Schoology and how to use that specifically with the idea of flipping the classroom. Thanks for your attention.